Lindsey Graham, welcome back.
Thank you, Brian.
How's it feel to have? Is it a little bit like having your weight off the shoulders?
No, it was frustrating. I enjoyed it. I thought we drove the debate on national security. I was frustrated I couldn't get on the big stage and have a discussion with Trump, Cruz, and everybody else about how you defend the nation and solve hard problems like immigration. But I think I did the best with the hand that I was dealt. I'm proud of my team. People were very nice to me. I'm supporting Jeb Bush because I think he's best qualified to be commander-in-chief on day one, and he has a personality and temperament to bring our country together. And the next president needs to do that because Barack Obama's divided us pretty badly.
But I'll tell you what, Senator, as you know, that all could be 100% true, but the polls reflect he's in single digits in most states, although moving up in your state of South Carolina.
Doesn't really matter right now, quite frankly. The bottom line is national polls are just sort of a personality contest. In South Carolina, we have the highest percentage of veterans per capita of any state in the nation. The veterans group that we're going to bring on board for Jeb is going to be very impressive. We're going to make this a referendum on commander-in-chief, who is best qualified to take care of the 1% who've been doing the fighting for the rest of us, who understands this war, has got a plan to win it, and who can govern a diverse nation the best. I think Jeb Bush, and the Bush family's name is gold in South Carolina. The most popular Republican in South Carolina is George W. Bush.
Right.
So I feel really good about South Carolina. Jeb is running against expectations in Iowa and New Hampshire, and he has to beat expectations.
Right, he does. And do you think that some have said that if Donald Trump wins Iowa, and he's more than likely to be successful in New Hampshire, that he's done? That basically all the other establishment candidates can call it a day?
You know, it could be. I can just tell you this. That means Hillary Clinton's president. The only thing I know for sure.
You don't think Trump can beat Hillary?
No, not even close.
The woman that's struggling with a socialist?
Close. Dishonest beats crazy.
And you look at Trump as crazy?
Beyond crazy. Insane on foreign policy, has no idea what he's talking about. His domestic agenda is a bunch of gibberish. He's saying things that have no chance of becoming reality. He's got an 81% disapproval rating with Hispanics. What did we learn in 2012? That we're losing ground with Hispanics because of the way we approach immigration. Self-deportation did not go over well. We're now into the land of forced deportation. So if you want to make Hillary Clinton president, elect Donald Trump. His numbers with young women are terrible. He has through-the-roof negatives with Hispanics. We'll get creamed, in my view.
What is your take on the Trump-Cruz dust-up that's lasted now for 4 days, and it's brutal and it's personal?
And I think it's taken us away from how to defend the nation. Number one, Ted Cruz is born in Canada. I have no doubt he's eligible to run for president of the United States. I have no doubt that he would be an ideologue in the eyes of most Americans. He's been a senator. He's been the most disruptive influence in the Senate. He hasn't passed anything meaningful. His idea to shut down the entire government to get Barack Obama to repeal Obamacare made no sense to me. It hurt the Republican Party.
But people say he stood up for principle.
No, I think what he did, he stood up for Ted and threw the Republican Party under the bus. And when I said, Ted, this is not the way to repeal Obamacare, do you think Bush would have signed a law repealing the Bush tax cuts if the Democrats had done this? Okay, we would all said you're a bunch of nuts to try to make the president repeal a law that was passed because you don't like it by shutting the government down. Well, Ted's idea of shutting the entire government down to get Barack Obama to sign a bill that would repeal the signature issue was stupid. He used it to raise money. It hurt the Republican Party. And here's what I hate the most about what he did. He accused me and others who disagreed with the tactic of being for Obamacare. You know, remember the Sandy Hook shooting when those kids were killed? He was going to filibuster a debate about gun control. We won every vote on the floor. The worst thing the Republican Party could have done is say after Sandy Hook, we don't want to have a debate. No, I don't think he's ready to be president. I don't think he's mature enough. I think he's all over the board on foreign policy. He is more of a libertarian than he is a Ronald Reagan conservative. He changes with the wind. So I don't dislike Ted as a person, but they will cream him. Almost anybody else could win.
Do you think he's the most disliked person in the Senate, as it was indicated on this show from Rand Paul?
I don't dislike him. I think he's the least respected. I think what he does is get ahead at other people's expense. When he accused me of being for Obamacare because I did not agree with his tactics to repeal Obamacare, that was very offensive. I've never been for Obamacare, but I had people in South Carolina saying, why are you voting for Obamacare? I said, what are you talking about? Well, you weren't with Cruz.
And you were up for election?
Yeah. You know, it really pissed me off because it's okay to disagree on tactics, But to accuse your colleague of being for Obamacare when you know they're not, because they don't agree with your tactics, was a bridge too far for me. He does not have the ability to pull this country together. When you talk about problem solver, you can't mention Ted Cruz.
I want you to hear what Mark Halpern said about Jeb Bush. Cut 30.
I've never written off Jeb Bush, and I will tell you, who has shown the smartest political instincts in America this year, in the last year? Who has? Donald Trump has, right? Who does Donald Trump continue to attack? Jeb Bush. Why does he continue to attack Jeb? I think he agrees with me that Jeb Bush remains potentially, besides Ted Cruz, the biggest threat to Donald Trump being the nominee.
That's Mark's analysis.
Well, I don't know. Here's what I believe. I had a lot of good people to choose from. I chose Jeb because I think he's ready on day one to be commander-in-chief. He understands that you have to partner with people in the faith, that if you ban all Muslims, that's a bad idea to win a war we can't afford to lose, that we need partners in the region, and when you attack the faith, you're empowering the enemy and you're hurting our friends. I think he's solid. I like his temperament. I think he will wipe the floor with Hillary Clinton. I think she's the most flawed candidate to come out of the Democratic Party in decades, and the only way she wins if we nominate somebody that alienates a wide slice of the American electorate, particularly young people and Hispanics. And Jeb will do well with Hispanics. He has some of the best approval ratings of any Republican. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know this, that I'm going to help Jeb Bush because I believe that he's the best qualified to be commander-in-chief.
What's his reaction when you told him? How did you tell him?
I called him and I said, Jeb, I made up my mind. I'd love to help you if you want me to. He was over the top happy in the sense that I would help him. Listen, I didn't do that well. I mean, I could never get on the big stage. So I'm not saying that I'm going to turn things around for Jeb Bush. I am saying that I'm known for national security because I've had 36 trips to Iraq and Afghanistan. I know this war. I've got a plan to win it, and Jeb's plan is virtually what I've been saying. I believe that he is the best person to take care of our military. He's mature.
Right.
He governed a diverse state called Florida. If he gets in the ring with Hillary Clinton, he'll win. And more importantly, he'd be a good president.
Well, what you do is the best you can as you got elected.
That's all I can do
in South Carolina.
I will help him where I can.
But you think South Carolina, would that be the place in which he asked you to focus?
I'm going to help him wherever I can, but South Carolina, the 3 states, will focus more on national security than any other early states. More veterans per capita in South Carolina than any place in the nation. We're going to turn this into a referendum on commander-in-chief. I like John Kasich. I like Rubio. Christie's great. I just think Jeb is the best qualified on day one.
Right. And so besides Trump and Cruz, is there anybody else you'd have a lot of trouble supporting?
Rand Paul.
Okay. Do you think Rand Paul made the right decision not to show up in the second-tier debate?
I can't say.
Did you ever get tempted to say the same thing?
I was frustrated, but no, I just took the opportunity. I understand his frustration. I hate the process that used national polling the way it has, so I'm sympathetic to Rand. But I don't dislike Rand, but he's a libertarian at a time when we need somebody who's a Ronald Reagan type conservative.
So here's John Kerry after he announced the Iranian deal on our show. I asked him, did you know when you came out and said how great it was after 14 hours to get our guys out that they had footage of us with our guys on their knees with their hands behind their head and a confession on tape? Cut 14.
I was furious about it, and I immediately contacted my counterpart, and we indicated our disgust at that particular thing. It was clear that it did not come from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It was something that I think the military over there released on their own, and it was very, very unfortunate, inappropriate.
And he also says as a former sailor, he took it personal. Your reaction?
Here's my reaction, that the deal that the Obama administration negotiated with Iran is the worst deal since Munich. The largest state sponsor of terrorism will have $150 billion to do with as they wish. They have a pathway to a bomb, even if they don't cheat. In 8 years, they can build a missile to deliver it to us in Israel. Other than that, it's a good deal. I've never felt more disgusted with an administration than I do now. You've made Iran a super regional power. You've damned the Iranian people to be oppressed by the Ayatollah in perpetuity. They rose up against in 2009 against this theocracy. The American reaction was to coddle Iran, to disconnect their destabilizing behavior from their nuclear ambitions. This deal doesn't dismantle their program. This is the worst deal for the Mideast in the world I could think of, and I've lost all respect for Obama and Kerry in this regard. They don't know what they're doing.
Well, they certainly were at it long enough, and the president always said, I'm going to talk to my enemies. Now we cut a deal with one of them, who we all admit is not signed off on terror. Now they're going to be...
Look what they've done since the deal.
Their bank account is now lying.
Since the deal. They've test-fired missiles in violation of UN resolutions. They've engaged in Syria on the ground. They won the Powerball, man. I mean, this is the dumbest friggin' deal in the history of deals. You've taken the largest state sponsor of terrorism. You have not required them to change their behavior before you give them access to missiles, conventional weapons, and $150 billion in cash. The Arabs are apoplectic about this. John Kerry and Barack Obama have created the conditions for a nuclear arms race in the Mideast. That's why the next president needs to dishonor this deal, not honor the deal, and get you a better one.
Senator Lindsey Graham is here. Stay around for another block. Then we have Jennifer Griffin on the latest from the Pentagon. This is Kilmeade and Friends. Senator Lindsey Graham, a few more minutes with us. Senator Graham, we had some breaking news as you walked in here. It looks like the Supreme Court will take a look at the president's executive order when it comes to naturalizing illegal immigrants.
I think 6-3. Supreme Court strikes down his action. Why? The judge did a good job on Fox a few minutes ago. It's one thing as a prosecutor to defer prosecution. You got 100 people. You're going to give 10 people a pass. They're not dangerous. You're going to focus on the 90. This is not that. What he's doing is he's taking people who are in an illegal status. Instead of saying, I'm going to take a pass on you because you're not a dangerous person, he's saying, nope, you now have legal status. You can't do that by yourself. You can't take somebody who's broken the law and with a wave of a wand give them a legal status. The Congress has to be involved in that.
All right, so you look at the B6-3. I want you to hear what Robert Gates told us. Nobody knows more about the operations of the White House as it relates to Congress than you guys, and have also studied the Secretary of Defenses that he's had, from Hagel to Gates to Panetta, and now we have Ash Carter. Here is Robert Gates, cut 45, on what he noticed after working for 8 presidents.
The president is quoted as having said at one point to his staff, I can do every one of your jobs better than you can. I think that, he has centralized power and operational activities of the government in the White House to a degree that I think is unparalleled. An NSC staff of 450 people at this point. And yet, I think one of the great weaknesses of the White House is implementation of strategy, is difficulty in developing strategy and then implementing that strategy. And I don't see the kind of strong people around the president who will push back on him. I will give him credit. I pushed back on him a lot, and he never shut me down. He never told me to be quiet or refused to see me or anything like that.
Your reaction?
Well, there are 4 people that run this country: Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, Michelle Obama. All I can tell you is if he thinks he can do the job better than everybody else, Mr. President, not only are you a bad president, you're a lousy Secretary of Defense and State. On your watch, you've taken the largest state sponsor of terrorism and made it a regional superpower. You took radical Islam that was on its knees and given it new life. You've allowed Russia to become a dominant player in the Mideast for the first time in almost 50 years. China is running over our neighbors in the Far East. At the end of the day, everything you're doing is not working. You should listen to somebody because you don't know what you're doing.
And he does think his legacy is great, and he took a big bow.
Well, it's going to be great. It's great for our enemies. They're going to miss him.
Senator Lindsey Graham, thanks so much. Great to see you. Jeb Bush is lucky to have you.
Well, I'm honored to be on Jeb's team, and thank you for having me, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, he's the taller Bush, Jeb, right?
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thanks.
All right. Senator